Do I really think Taylor Swift wrote this book? No. I'm intrigued, I'm intrigued, I'm intrigued. Very excited, very excited, very excited. Like, love, 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 love them. Always the sidekick and never the center of attention. Yes! Caveats, asterisks. Like, what? Right? Shocking, but fine. Let's try that again. Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse and welcome to January 2024 new releases. Buckle up friends, there are so many books coming out in January. So I am 1000% doing my most anticipated kind of sneak preview of 2024, a lot of which will involve pre-orders I've already done and some of my favorite people who have books coming out and some books who have caught my eye. But I also wanted to dive deeper, third time's the charm, on a monthly basis because I know that it's a video that a lot of you guys have said that you look forward to and you find really helpful. And also I don't want anyone to be misguided in thinking that I'm only interested in the books I'm pre-ordering because I'm interested in so many books. So the list is ready. Not all inclusive, I realize. Please check the pub dates. I've already found one mistake, a book that I had for January that has now been bumped to March. So caveats, asterisks, all the fun stuff. Let's start talking about January 2024. Now, I feel like there is a really good mix of authors that you know that I love and some new to me authors and some debuts sprinkled in here. So a little bit of everything. And the first book I have is First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. So in this one, we have Evie Porter, and she has everything a nice Southern girl could want. A perfect doting boyfriend, a house with a white picket fence and a garden, and a fancy group of friends. The only catch is Evie Porter doesn't exist. So the identity comes to Evie Porter. Once she's given a name and location by her mysterious boss, Mr. Smith, she learns everything there is to know about the town and the people in it. And then the target, Ryan Sumner. The last piece of the puzzle is the job. So Evie doesn't know who Mr. Smith really is, but she knows that this job is going to be different because Ryan has gotten under her skin. And she's starting to envision a different sort of life for herself. But Evie can't make any mistakes, especially after what happened last time. Dun, dun, dun. Because one thing she's worked her entire life to keep clean, the one identity she could always go back to, her real identity, just walked right into this town. Evie Porter must stay one step ahead of her past while making sure there is still a future in front of her. The stakes couldn't be higher, but then Evie has always liked a challenge. I don't know what's happening here. When I'm hearing like Mr. Smith, I'm like, is it like Charlie from Charlie's Angels? Is she like a hit woman who was out to get this guy? Like he's her mark, but what is he her mark for? I'm just super intrigued. So obviously it's on the list. So first one on the list, very intrigued, new to me author. Ashley Elston has written a YA book and now she's hitting up some adult mystery thriller crime fiction. So here we go. The next book I have is Rabbit Hole by Kate Brody. And this is what got me. It is pitched as a twisty, sexy debut exploring the dark side of true crime fandom, love, and the blurry lines of female friendship, love, perfect for fans of Gillian Flynn, My Favorite Murder, and Fleabag. So I have mentioned before that I'm a marketer's dream and you put certain words and phrases and authors' names into a description and I am all over it. So I am all over this one. So this says, conspiracy theories from Reddit seduce a disaster-prone woman into an obsession with solving her older sister's cold case disappearance. So 10 years ago, Theodora Teddy Angstrom's older sister, Angie, went missing. Her case remains unsolved, and now Teddy's father, Mark, has killed himself. Unbeknownst to Mark's family, he has been active in a Reddit community fixated on Angie, and Teddy can't help but fall down the same rabbit hole. Hence the title of the book. So Teddy's investigation quickly gets her into hot water with her gun nut boyfriend, her long-lost half-brother, and her colleagues at the prestigious high school where she teaches English. Further complicating matters is Teddy's growing obsession with Mickey, a charming amateur sleuth who is eerily keen on helping her solve the case. Is anyone else picturing Timothy Olyphant as Mickey in Scream 2? So it says, a biting critique on the internet's voyeurism, Rabbit Hole is an outrageous and heart-wrenching character study of a mind twisted by grief and a page-turning mystery that's as addictive as a late-night Reddit binge. So I am totally intrigued. Full disclosure, I do have a NetGalley arc of this book. So you're going to hear me talk about another book shortly that is next up on my list. And as much as I'm really trying to do my 10 before the end, I'm probably going to pivot. So anyway, very excited, very excited, very excited. Coming up next is an old favorite of mine. Hardly old. This is The Heiress by Rachel Hawkins. So I am a huge fan of her writing. I have read her 3 mystery thrillers. I read 2 of her books as Erin Sterling, and I just enjoy the twisty, semi-dark, bingeable quality of her books. So in this one, it says, when Ruby McTavish Callahan Woodward Miller Kenmore dies, total soap opera name, she's not only North Carolina's richest woman, she's also its most notorious. The victim of a famous kidnapping as a child and a widow 4 times over, Ruby ruled the tiny town of Tavistock. This is such a tongue twister. She ruled Tavistock from her family's estate high in the Blue Ridge Mountains. In the aftermath of her death, that estate, along with a 9-figure fortune and the complicated legacy of being a McTavish, passed to her adopted son, Camden. But to everyone's surprise, Camden wants little to do with the house or the money, and even less to do with the surviving McTavishes. Instead, he rejects his inheritance, settling into a normal life as an English teacher in Colorado, and marrying Jules, a woman just as eager to escape her own messy past. So 10 years later, Camden is called back because his uncle has died, and it brings him and Jules back to the family fold. And it says, coming home reminds Cam of why he was so quick to leave in the first place, but Jules has other ideas. And the more she learns about Cam's estranged family and the twisted secrets they keep, the more determined she is for her husband to claim everything Ruby once intended for him to have. So obviously I'm intrigued by this book. As I already mentioned, I love Rachel Hawkins. I'm totally obsessed with the cover of this book. I also have a NetGalley arc of this book, so I plan to dive into it on the sooner side as well, and I will keep you guys posted, but there's just something about her books which I find just absolutely compulsive, like I said. So I am very excited to read this one. I thoroughly enjoyed The Villa. I thoroughly enjoyed The Wife Upstairs. I thoroughly enjoyed, what is the one with the yellow cover? That's in the other room because I read it this year. Dang it, dang it, dang it. Be more prepared. Be more prepared. Reckless Girls. Reckless Girls. And I'm just really excited to read more from her because I have such a fun time with her books. So, like I said, stay tuned for more on this one. The next book I have is One of the Good Guys by Araminta Hall. So she wrote Our Kind of Cruelty, which I have. I feel like it was comped to, if you're a fan of Gillian Flynn, and I haven't read it yet, but it's totally okay. But One of the Good Guys, I heard about this book, I'm just gonna shimmy so you guys can see it a little better, from Samantha Downing on a podcast I was listening to when she was talking about Twisted, a love story. And she was talking about like books she had recently read, and this was one of them. So anyway, it says, and of course I take recommendations from some of my favorite authors, which there actually was a point to that story. But anyway, this is what it's about. If most men claim to be good, why are most women still afraid to walk home alone at night? Desperate to escape the ghosts of his failed marriage, Cole upends his life. He leaves London behind for a remote stretch of coast, relishing the respite from the noise, drama, and relentless careerism that curdled his relationship and mental health. Leonora has made the same move for similar reasons. She's living a short walk from Cole's seaside cottage, preparing for her latest art exhibition. Although Cole still can't figure out what went wrong with his marriage, and Leonora is having trouble acclimating to the hostile landscape, the pair forge a connection on the eroding bluff they call home. Then, 2 young female activists raising awareness about gendered violence disappear while passing through. Cole and Leonora suddenly find themselves in the middle of a police investigation and the resulting media firestorm when the world learns of what happened. And as the tension escalates alongside the search for the missing women, they quickly realize that they don't know each other that well at all. So, is Cole one of the good guys? One of the good guys? We will find out. We will find out. So, like I just said, I love getting recommendations from fellow readers, from authors that I know and love. You're going to hear some coming from a podcast and half a beat. And again, I have heard obviously of Araminta Hall because I do have her book, which I will read, I promise. But this one definitely caught my eye and caught my ear when I heard Samantha Downing talking about it. The next book I have is The Expectant Detectives by Kat Ayres. So I was going to say this is like a little bit of levity, but it's also, the quote from Deanna Raybourn is a darkly witty debut, archly funny and highly recommended. So as you can see from the cover of this book, we have a pregnant woman who is, I'm guessing, an amateur detective, perhaps. So it says, can they solve the mother of all murders? For Alice and her partner Joe, moving to the sleepy village of Penton is a chance to embrace country life and prepare for the birth of their first child. He can take up woodwork, maybe she'll learn to make jam. But the rural idyll they'd hoped for doesn't quite pan out when a dead body is discovered at their local prenatal class and they find themselves suspects in a murder investigation. This just sounds like extremely wickedly good fun. I am totally down for it. I am totally cracking up about the dog's face on the cover of this book. So, clouds of suspicion hanging over their head, Alice and her newfound pregnant friend set out to solve the murder and clear their names with the help of her troublesome dog, Helen. Helen's face is killing me. However, there are more secrets and tensions in the heart of Penton than first meets the eye. So, this kind of reminds me a smidge of the Jennifer Weiner book, Goodnight Nobody, where it's like the mom moves to the suburbs, she has the 3 young kids, and she goes to take her daughter on a play date when the book opens, and the mom of the play date is found dead in her kitchen. So she winds up basically trying to investigate the crime in her spare time when her kids are at playgroup because she's super bored living in the Connecticut suburbs and really sort of not jazzed about having it moved out of the city. But I love me like a slightly cozy, darkly witty, I'm totally here for it, amateur group of detectives. It is all my J.B. Fletcher dreams coming true. So this seems like a fun one. And it says it's number 1, so I'm guessing it's going to be the beginning of a series. It's usually what that indicates. So let's stay tuned. We'll start here and we'll see what happens. The next one I have is a little bit of an interesting one, I'm going to say. So I heard about this on the Killing the Tea podcast with Gare and Kate. No, like love, 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 love them. This is called Argyle by Ellie Conway. So they did a podcast specifically on debuts that are coming out in 2024 that they are like ears up, eyes up, all over. And this is one of those weird situations where this has already been made into a movie that hasn't been released yet, and then the book is coming out. And weirder yet is Ellie Conway is like, this is like one of those books where the author is like super duper cryptic. So if you try and find out who Ellie is, there's like no information about Ellie Conway, so it could be anybody. But one of the biggest rumors online is that Taylor Swift wrote this book. So, sure. I don't know. But this is like, I feel like similar to like when Alex Finley's book came out and everybody was convinced it was AJ Finn. There is a lot of conspiracy theories around who Ellie Conway is, and is it really Taylor Swift? Does she have time to write a book when she is on tour and being Taylor Swift? Probably, because I feel like there's nothing Taylor can't do. So this is a spy thriller. The movie is already done. The movie is supposed to be coming out in February. And it has a star-studded cast including Henry Cavill, Bryce Dallas Howard, Samuel L. Jackson, and John Cena. So the movie is already coming. And this is a luxury train speeding towards Moscow and a date with destiny. A CIA plane downed in the jungles of the Golden Triangle. A Nazi horde entombed in the remote mountains of southwest Poland. A missing treasure, the eighth wonder of the world, lost for 7 decades. One Russian magnate's dream of restoring a nation to greatness has set in motion a chain of events which will take the world to the brink of chaos. Only Frances Coffey, the CIA's most legendary spy master, can prevent it, but to do so she needs someone special. Enter Argyle, a troubled agent with a tarnished past, who may just have the skills to take on one of the most powerful men in the world, if only he can save himself first. So, I am definitely not like a deep spy thriller reader, but I'm definitely a hardcore Alias fan and super intrigued by this. So I just like, I feel like I don't know what to think. I definitely was interest piqued when I heard Kate talk about it. And do I really think Taylor Swift wrote this book? No. But I hear, for the spy conspiracy theorist of it all, absolutely, absolutely. So I don't know. I'm just, antenna is up. I'm super curious, and I don't know. I just thought it would be a fun one to add to the list. So there you go. Okay, next up we're going to get into two of my pre-orders, and one of which I have an arc of, which I screamed at the high levels of my voice. That made no sense. I screamed when I opened the package. It's The Fury by Alex Michaelides. I am so thirsty for this book. I'm so excited to dive into it. So I am maybe about 100 pages from the end of the book that I'm currently reading, and then this is next up on my list. I ordered the UK edition of this book, which comes out in February. This comes out in the US in January, which is why we're talking about it here. I am a huge fan of his as a writer. From a writing advice standpoint, I went down many a rabbit hole of interviews with him this year, which if you have followed me this year, you have heard me talk about him probably ad nauseum. So we're gonna get to talk about him a little bit more today. So this is an isolated mystery, and it says this is a tale of murder. Or maybe that's not quite true. At its heart, it's a love story, isn't it? So Lana is a reclusive ex-movie star, and every year she invites some of her closest friends to spend Easter on her idyllic private Greek island. So she's one of the most famous women in the world, but she is kind of a little bit out of the spotlight right now. And it says, I tell you this because you may think you know this story. You probably read about it at the time. It caused a real stir in the tabloids. It had all the necessary ingredients for a press sensation: a celebrity, a private island cut off by the wind, and a murder. We found ourselves trapped there overnight, old friendships concealed hatred, and a desire for revenge. What followed was a game of cat and mouse, a battle of wits, full of twists and turns, building to an unforgettable climax. The night ended in violence and death. But who am I? My name is Elliot Chase, and I'm going to tell you a story unlike any you've ever heard. So I am a very big fan of his storytelling style. So I love what he did in The Silent Patient. I very much enjoyed what he did with The Maidens. I have great appreciation. I feel like even more so having listened to so many podcasts and interviews with him, for how he approaches his books, how he approaches his story, his absolute love for Agatha Christie and the legacy of her books, his love of, he used to be a screenwriter, he's made a few movies, and I feel like a very humble approach to, he realized he was not going to find success there, but he was a really good storyteller. And this is his canvas now to tell his stories, but a very methodical, thoughtful approach to writing his books. And I find him talking about his writing experience so interesting to listen to. And like the mega success of The Silent Patient, the not as mega success of The Maidens, and sort of how that impacted him. But I am very excited for this book. A new Alex Michaelides was definitely on the most anticipated, and I was not expecting to get this, and I couldn't be happier. So thank you, Celadon. I don't even think I mentioned it. This is from Celadon. I'm super excited, and stay tuned because I'm reading this one next. And then another instant favorite author of mine, we have Only If You're Lucky by Stacey Willingham. So I've also pre-ordered this book. I can't wait for it to come out. I also have an e-arc of this book, so I'm going to be reading this. Man, I'm going to be busy. I'm super behind. So in this one, it says, Lucy Sharp is larger than life. Magnetic, addictive, bold and dangerous, especially for Margot, who meets Lucy at the end of their freshman year at a liberal arts college in South Carolina. Margot is the shy one, the careful one, always the sidekick and never the center of attention. But when Lucy singles her out at the end of the year, a year Margot spent studying and playing it safe, she asks her to room together. Lucy asks Margot to room together. Something in Margot can't say no, something daring or starved or maybe even envious. And so Margot finds herself living in an off-campus house with 3 other girls, Lucy the ringleader, Sloane the sarcastic one, and Nicole the nice one, the 3 of them opposites but also deeply intertwined. It's a year when Margot finally comes out of the shell she's been in since the end of high school, when her best friend Eliza died 3 weeks after graduation. So now Margot and Lucy are fast and close friends, But by the middle of their sophomore year, one of the fraternity boys from the house next door has been brutally murdered, and Lucy Sharp is missing without a trace. So we get some dark academia. We get Greek life, which you guys know I love to pieces. I'm a huge fan of Stacey Willingham's writing. I love her stories. I was obsessed with Flicker in the Dark, like totally engrossed in that book. Absolutely loved it. I had a really good time with All the Dangerous Things. And all the dangerous things, all the dangerous places, all the dangerous things, all the dangerous things. I mix it up every time. So I'm very excited for this. Also obsessed with this cover. Can we talk about 2024 being like the year of the amazing covers? Because I kind of feel like it is. And I'm also going to be, I'm going to be a broken record and tell you guys I'm going to read this on the sooner side. But I'm super excited for this. Like I said, I'm just such a massive fan of her, and I'm very excited to hear / read what she came up with next. So you'll hear about that one too. Okay, now we're going to pivot to a couple new to me authors. So the first one is The Silence in Her Eyes. This is by Armando Lucas Correa. And this is a little bit of a Rear Window inspired story, but with a very interesting take on it. So I have like a couple tropes, more than a couple tropes, that you guys know I'm totally obsessed with. So the isolated vibe, any kind of like isolation situation. I love me some dark academia, and I love me some books that play on movies that I love, especially if it's a Hitchcock movie. So here we are with Rear Window. So on this one, it says it centers on a young woman with a rare neurological condition who is convinced her neighbor is going to be murdered. So Leah has a kinetopsia. I'm probably saying that wrong. AKA motion blindness. So she's had it since she was a child, and for the last 20 years she hasn't been able to see movement. So she walks around Manhattan with a white stick tapping in front of her. Most assume that she is blind, but the truth is Leah can see a good deal, and with her acute senses of smell and hearing, very little escapes her notice. She has a very quiet and orderly life with little human contact beyond her longtime housekeeper, her doctor, and her elderly neighbor. But it all changes when Alice moves into the apartment next door, and Leah can immediately smell the anxiety wafting off of her. Worse, Leah can't help but hear Alice and a late-night visitor engage in a violent fight. Worried, she befriends her neighbor and discovers that Alice is in the middle of a messy divorce from an abusive husband. And then one night, Leah wakes up to someone in her apartment. She blacks out, and in the morning is left wondering if she dreamt the episode. And yet the scent of the intruder follows her everywhere. Ugh, I'm so cringy. And when she hears Alice through the wall pleading for her help, Leah makes a decision that will test her courage, her strength, and ultimately her sanity. So I'm very intrigued by this book. So when I originally saw this, and I was like, this sounds really interesting. And then I kept reading and I was like, So anything that, like I said, kind of plays on that Rear Window vibe, I'm very curious about. And I love these different twists to keep it fresh and keep it original, but play on something that I find familiar. So we'll see. Again, new to me author, and I'm excited to check it out. And then the next one is a book that totally plays on one of my other favorite tropes, the isolated vibe with some toxic, messed up female friendships on top. Yes! This is The Search Party by Hannah Rochelle. I hope I'm saying that right. And this is giving me a little bit of a dark, dark wood vibe by Ruth Ware, which is my favorite Ruth Ware book still. And this one says, a spellbinding locked room mystery about a glamping trip gone horribly wrong when a powerful storm leaves the participants stranded and forced to confront long-held secrets and a shocking disappearance. So, different than Dark, Dark Wood, but I don't know why when I read this the first time I immediately felt like Dark, Dark Wood. So, here we go. Max and Anna Kingsley have left the London rat race with their 12-year-old son to set up a glamping site in the wilds of Cornwall. Eager for a dry run ahead of their opening, they invite 3 old university friends and their families for a long-needed reunion. This also reminds me of something else, but I don't want to ruin anything. But the festivities soon go awry as tensions arise between the children and subsequently their parents. Explosive secrets come to light and a sudden storm moves in, cutting them off from help as one in the group disappears. So it says, moving between the police investigation, a hospital room, and the catastrophic weekend. Search Party is propulsive and twisty, destination, thriller. And I think the setup of the idea that we have like the investigation in the hospital room and the weekend, so I'm guessing we're gonna have like multiple timelines and POVs, is what's giving me in a Dark Wood vibes, even though that was hen party, this is glamping old friend reunion. But both are just like pots to be stirred, and all sorts of tensions and old secrets and all sorts of old dark and messed up friendships, I'm hoping, are all gonna just bubble up and come to life, and you know, somebody goes missing. And very optimistic about this one. Very optimistic about this one. Messed up weather, messed up friendships. It's everything I love. It's everything I love. Okay, the next book I have is one that should be arriving today. And I honestly actually debated filming this video until I could stand here and hold it in my hand, but I was like, that's silly. So this is No One Can Know by Kate Alice Marshall. This was a Book of the Month selection for December, so an early release for them. I am super excited for this. I am less excited for the post office, who has really worked my last nerve with several of my packages as of late, but bygones, right? Bygones. So I just finished What Waits in the Woods, which was Kate Alice Marshall's adult debut. I have read Rules for Vanishing, which was one of her YA books. I have a few more of her YA books hanging out behind me here, but I loved What Lies in the Woods. And it was just, and this is not a sequel in any kind of way, but anyway, I just finished reading it, so I'm excited about it. And it was like the perfect mix of like dark, messed up, past and present mysteries, complicated female friendships, complicated family relationships, secrets, lies, like everything I want in a book. I can see my light is flashing, so I'm going to talk super fast. So in this one, it says, This is a novel about 3 sisters, 2 murders, and too many secrets to count. So Emma hasn't told her husband too much about her past. He knows her parents are dead, and she hasn't spoken to her sisters in years. Then they lose their apartment, her husband gets laid off, and Emma discovers she's pregnant right as the bank account slips into the red. That's when Emma confesses that she has one more asset, her parents' house, which she owns jointly with her estranged sisters. They can't sell it, but they can live in it. But returning home means that Emma is forced to reveal her secrets to her husband, that the house is not a rundown farmhouse, but a stately mansion, and that her parents died there, were murdered, and that some people say Emma did it. I don't want to read anything more than that. I don't want to know anything more than that. And now I'm like, dang it, I want to read this as soon as it shows up today. So again, keep your eyes peeled or your ears peeled, or both. Keep them all peeled, because when I read this, which I plan to read on the sooner side because I'm obsessed, I will of course let you guys know all about it. But I am hoping this baby arrives today, like my tracking information says it will. So fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Okay, I'm gonna change my battery so it doesn't die in the middle of the next sentence I say. So I will see you guys in 2 seconds. And if I look different, that's fine. Nothing but a professional here. Full professional operation. All right. We are back with The Busybody by Kemper Donovan. So Kemper is the host of All About Agatha, which is a podcast that I have become increasingly obsessed with in the past, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months. So it is a podcast I had listened to in the past, and him and his former co-host, who unexpectedly passed away at the end of 2021, but he has continued with the podcast. They were old friends, longtime friends, and they were on a mission to read and rank every Agatha Christie book ever. And they go into a deep dive. The back episodes are fantastic. The current episodes are fantastic. They had read all but 6 books when she had passed away, but they take the deepest dive into each book, totally dissect it, talk about everything. It is spoiler full, which you are fully aware of when you go into it. So I have only listened to the episodes of the books I have read, and then a bunch of special interviews and guests, and they talk about some of the movies and stuff like that. But this is his debut book, and I am super intrigued because this is a man who is obviously so well versed on the art of writing a mystery that I'm very interested to see what he comes up with next. So this is what he comes up with, period, to debut. So the blurb says that he injects the spark and fizz of a golden age murder mystery into a present day. That's not a phrase. So it says he injects the spark and fizz of a golden age murder mystery into the present day, as a ghostwriter is chosen to collaborate on a presidential candidate's memoir, only to discover just how much trouble a smart woman with time on her hands can get up to. It's a dream assignment. Former Senator Dorothy Gibson, aka that woman, is the most talked about person in the country right now, though largely for the wrong reasons. As an independent candidate for President of the United States, Dorothy split the vote and is being blamed for the shocking result. After her very public defeat, she's retreated to her home in rural Maine, inviting a ghostwriter to join her. Her collaborator is impressed by Dorothy's work ethic and steel-trap mind, not to mention the stunning surroundings, and one particularly gorgeous bodyguard. But when a neighbor dies under suspicious circumstances, Dorothy is determined to find the killer in their midst. And when Dorothy Gibson asks if you want to team up for a top-secret, possibly dangerous murder investigation, the only answer is, of course. The best ghostwriters are adept at asking questions and spinning stories, two talents, it turns out, that also come in handy for sleuths. Dorothy's political career, meanwhile, has made her an expert at recognizing lies and double-dealing. Working together, the two women are soon untangling motives and whittling down suspects, to the exasperation of local police. But this investigation, much like the election, may not unfold the way anyone expects. I'm very intrigued. Like I said, very intrigued. So I really enjoy him as a podcaster. Such interesting insight and commentary, and very engaging to listen to. So I will link the podcast down below also in case you guys have not heard of it or are interested in it, or maybe just want to revisit it. So yeah, definitely on my list. I think it's very interesting. I don't know. I like the idea of these two women coming together to solve the crime. Again, it's giving me that amateur detective J.B. Fletcher kind of a vibe to it, which, at the risk of repeating myself, I love. Okay, let's talk about a book that I have and haven't read yet. So if you might remember this from, wait, let's hope it all doesn't fall down. I showed this in a vlog many months ago, easily. So this is The Alperton Angels. Let me just close this so I don't drop my computer at the same time too, by Janice Hallett. So she wrote The Appeal, which I loved. And I had been doing, I don't know, some kind of book research online, late night sleuthing, I don't even know. And I came across this and I was like, oh my God, she wrote another book. I had no idea. And then I saw it was coming out in January. And then because I know that she's from the UK, and I did the thing where I Googled and I bought it from the UK because I had to have it early because I had to read it, and then I didn't read it. So it's out now, almost, in the US in January. It's still December when I'm filming this. But I'm very excited about this. So The Appeal was done all in like text messages, and it basically was an appeal for a case. Someone was convicted of murder and they were appealing the murder conviction, and new attorneys were assigned to the case. So there were like two legal assistants going through all of the court documents and all of the evidence. So we were reading all of the evidence. A lot of it was emails, that kind of correspondence. So Janice Hallett, point being, is like she does a very interesting non-traditional format for her books. So as I look through this one, I can see we've got emails, we've got letters, we've got interviews, we've got transcripts, and it's just like a very fun way to read the book because I feel like it puts you in the seat where theoretically you are able to solve the mystery because you are investigating alongside, or like you are the investigator as you're reading through all of the details. So all that to say, in any kind of book that plays fair, you should be able to figure it out. But anyway, I don't know. There's just a different kind of fun. Like, I don't know, like a voyeuristic snooping kind of a fun to this one. So this says, the devil is in the detail. Everyone knows the sad story of the Alperton Angels, the cult who brainwashed a teenage girl and convinced her that her newborn baby was the Antichrist. Believing they had a divine mission to kill the infant, they were only stopped when the girl came to her senses and called the police. The angels committed suicide rather than stand trial, while mother and baby disappeared into the care system. So we pick up 2 decades later, and we have a true crime author named Angela Bailey, and she's writing a book on the angels. The Alperton baby has turned 18 and can finally be interviewed. If Amanda can find them, it will be the true crime scoop of the year and will save her flagging career. But rival author Oliver Menzies is just as smart and better connected and is also on the baby's trail. So they're forced to collaborate, and they realize that what everyone thinks they know about the angels is wrong. The truth is something much darker and stranger than they ever imagined, and the story of the Alberton Angels is far from over. This is a lot of book. It's like 400 pages. I don't know why it feels so giant and heavy, but I'm excited for this one. I mean, it goes without saying I'm excited for all of them. I do love these angel wing end papers though. So anyway, we are going to file this under another one of those books that Audrey had to have and hasn't read yet, but I haven't quite figured out my goals for next year. But one of them is to just start to read what I've got, As I sit here and give you guys a list of all books that are, like all these new books that are coming out that I want to get, I also want to read the ones I have, and we all know we need more time in the day to do all the things we want to do. Okay, the next one has been comped to kind of Jane Harper books. This is called Radiant Heat, and this is by Sarah Jane Collins, and this takes place in Australia, hence I think we get the comp there. And we have a catastrophic wildfire suddenly rips through a woman's hometown. She thinks she's lucky to have survived until she finds a dead woman in her driveway, clutching a piece of paper with her name on it. What? So Allison is alive. She rode out this fire in her bathroom, wrapped in a damp blanket. She finally emerges afterwards, and there is a cherry red car in her driveway covered in soot with a dead lady inside, who she doesn't know. So she finds the woman's bag. Her name is Simone Arnold, and a piece of paper with Allison's full name and address is inside her purse. But why? So it says, as Allison searches for answers across Australia's harsh landscape, she soon learns that the fire isn't the only threat she's facing. So I don't even know what to think about this book. I'm kind of thinking about that Tess Gerritsen book where we have our spy coast and the woman who like shows up dead in her driveway. These things happen in pairs sometimes. So I don't know. I'm intrigued. The whole point of this list is books that intrigue me and catch my attention. So there you go. Okay, next up is Crystal Sutherland's latest book. So I loved House of Hollow, and this is the first book she's come out with since then. I 1000% went back and bought 2 of her backlist books after I read House of Hollow 2 years ago, and I have not yet read the 2 books I bought 2 years ago, but that's okay. So this one is pitched as a darkly seductive, witchy thriller where both men and demons lurk in the shadows and girls refuse to go quietly into the night. So Zara believes in magic because the alternative is just too painful for her to bear. That her sister was murdered by a serial killer and there is precisely nothing she can do to change it. If there's anything Zara cannot stand, it's feeling powerless. So she decides she'll do whatever it takes, even if that means partaking in the occult, to bring her sister back from the dead. Jude Wolfe might be the daughter of a billionaire, but she's also undeniably cursed. After a deal with a demon went horribly wrong, her soul is now slowly turning necrotic. Flowers and insects die in her wake, and monstrous things come to taunt her at night. If Jude can't find the right someone to fix her mistake, she fears she'll die very soon. Enter Emmer Brine, the solution to both Zara and Jude's predicaments. The daughter of a witch, Emmer sets spells to women. The daughter of a witch, Emmer sells spells to women in desperate situations, willing to sacrifice a part of their soul in exchange for a bit of power, a bit of magic to change their lives. But Emmer has a dark past all her own, and as her former clients are murdered one by one, she knows it's followed her all the way to London. So I'm definitely getting a little like Anya from Buffy kind of vibes to this, is what Emmer sounds like to me. So it says, as Zara and Jude enter Emmer's orbit, they have to team up to stop the killer before they each end up next on his list. So YA, witchy, occult, just all sorts of dark and messed up things sound like they're happening here. House of Hollow was a book that completely took me by surprise. I was totally intrigued by the hype around that book. I loved the cover of that book. I'll pop up a picture of it here in case you haven't seen it. It's one of those covers that you really need to look at deeply because it's also like, it's both like stunningly beautiful and disturbingly gross in some ways. It's just like all the ants and stuff. But it was such an evocative book in that there were definitely some dark, descriptive smells and sounds and visions in that book, but it was about 3 sisters and just really I don't know. I've just found it all very interesting. I find Crystal Sutherland's writing very interesting, her storytelling very interesting. She obviously does a lot of female empowerment in her books, and I totally enjoyed it. So I'm curious about this one. I am curious, curious, curious. Okay, and then we've got one book left, which I haven't pre-ordered yet, but I'm like this close. So there is a Barnes & Noble special edition of this book, but I don't know off the top of my head what makes it special. So I need to do a little bit of research. But this is Everyone on This Train is a Suspect by Benjamin Stevenson. This is the second Ernest Cunningham book. And he wrote Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, which I read and loved earlier this year. And like early 2023. I'm not sure if this book is going up in 2023, if this video is going up in 2023, or like right at the start of 2024. But anyway, just know. Just know I read and loved his first book. So we're getting Ernie, our main character from Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, is back. And it says this time set on a train full of mystery writers, agents, editors, and fans. So this is a locked room train mystery. So one of the things I loved about the first book, which I think is something that didn't work for everyone, is that he breaks the fourth wall and talks to the audience. I found it extremely funny. I enjoyed the wit of it. I enjoyed the humor of it. I enjoyed the tongue-in-cheek, wink, wink, nod, nod of that book, where he is calling out, at this point in the book, you should know this. At this point in the book, I should be talking about that. Like, here's a well-known trope. Also at the beginning of the book, it's like, hey, if you're just here for the murder, here are the pages where people die. So you can flip ahead and like just read about the dead bodies. I loved that very like self-aware, we're in this kind of a trope of a book together, but also like completely like played with it and subverted my expectations in different ways. So I thought it was just really genius fun. So on this one, it says, when the Australian Mystery Writers Society invited me to their crime writing festival aboard the Gone, the famous train between Darwin and Adelaide, I was hoping for some inspiration for my second book. Fiction this time. I needed a break from real people killing each other. Obviously, that didn't pan out. The program is a who's who of crime writing royalty. The debut writer, me, the forensic science writer, the blockbuster writer, the legal thriller writer, the literary writer, the psychological suspense writer. But when one of us is murdered, the remaining authors quickly turn into 5 detectives. Together we should know how to solve a crime. Of course, we should also know how to commit one. How can you find a killer when all the suspects know how to get away with murder? So I just think this sounds absolutely fun. And now we're getting sort of, like I said, like these, I don't want to say stereotypical, but like these trope writers. So like the debut, the blockbuster, legal thriller, literary. And I feel like he's definitely going to have fun playing with the writer types in this one. I love A Closed Circle. I love the broken fourth wall. I just think it was just, I just love the first book so much. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I'm super excited for this one. So it is just not, it's not a question of like, if I'm going to buy the book, it's like which one I'm going to buy. So I need to look into the special edition details. You know what? We're sitting right here with a computer on my lap. So how about we look into them together right now? How about that? Bonus content, my friends. Not really. All right, let's see what makes this baby exclusive. It is. The Barnes & Noble exclusive edition will include an original short story featuring wannabe detective Andy and everyone's favorite investigator Ernest Ernie Cunningham. That appears to be it. Okay, so everyone can decide if they want to get the special edition, if they want to get it from their library, if you want to get it from wherever you want to get it, a local indie, or if you're just not interested at all, which, shocking, but fine. Kidding. Okay, so I am definitely highly interested in this book and we'll be getting it at some point. So that's going to do it for everything coming out in January. Not everything, but you know what I mean. Everything on my list coming out in January. But here's the part where I tap everybody for their help and where we wait for the truck to pass because it's super loud. Okay, I think we're good now. So I want you guys to tell me what book you are most jazzed about. Books, if you feel like books that are coming out in January. What is on your list? What have you already read? What have I missed? What do you think I might like that I've missed? And which book, if you want to talk about like what you're most excited to have me read, I don't know. Let's talk about me. What do you think of me? No, it's like, let's not talk about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think of me? I'm just kidding. Okay, obviously, if you guys have been here for a while, you completely understand the wacky, weird sense of humor that's going on right now. But, all right, I am going to cut myself off. So, happy January 2023. Happy New Year. Happy New Year of books. What a fantastic way to start off the year. There's so many. There's so many. I have work to do. So I'm going to get reading. I will see you guys in another video. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being here. And you guys are fantastic. All right. I'll see you guys in another one. Bye.